As insights and significance of graph theory, we have with us Dr. Nirmala Xavier, PG Dean and Head Department of Mathematics, St. Anne's College for Women. Dr. Nirmala Xavier has over 33 years of teaching experience both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. Ma'am has been the source of motivation for young minds in excelling in the field of mathematics and pursuing higher education since decades. The mastermind behind starting MSc Mathematics at St. Anne's and Math Minds Coaching Center for various competitive examinations that stands as a bundle of learning resource to math students, career-oriented courses, interdisciplinary courses in mathematics for students from other streams, instrumental in clearing several competitive examinations. A math wizard, her passion towards subject is seen with diverse research articles being published in high-end journals, both at national and international level. A disciplined, dedicated, and unwavering professionalism, ma'am has been instrumental in organizing various workshops, conferences, guest lectures, seminars, symposiums at national and international level. Ma'am has been the resource person at several prestigious institutions, one among them being Wipro Consultancy in collaboration with BITS Pilani for software professionals. Ma'am has served as convener for important committees at St. Anne's, being influential to the young staff. We are indeed honored to have you with us today, ma'am. May I have the privilege to invite Dr. Nirmala Xavier, Head Department of Mathematics, St. Anne's College for Women, amidst us. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Santoshi, for those kind words. First of all, I would like to appreciate each and every one of you for participating in this FDP and demonstrating the interest to learn. This program hopes to draw more young minds into the field and make teaching mathematics more memorable. I would like to thank Dr. Smita Asthana, our academic coordinator, for planting the initial seeds and suggesting the idea of conducting a faculty development program. The Department of Mathematics has collectively taken this initiative to primarily enlighten the younger generation to become better math teachers. As teachers, we often to connect with the students, draw them into the lecture and make the subject more engaging. We have been planning and developing this program for many weeks now to make it beneficial to you so it can count towards your growth as a teacher. We have brought together some of the most remarkable and experienced academicians and speakers to inspire you teachers and encourage the bright young minds aspiring to be the teachers of tomorrow. And to make things more interesting, I'll be asking questions. So please stay on the lookout for questions. The quickest responder on the Zoom chat will be awarded with a cash prize. Today, we are going to be discussing the basics of graph theory. It's going to be a lot of interesting content that we would cover in a short time. So I will request everyone to expand their attention span for this one. A Swiss mathematician, Leonhard Euler, who invented graph theory in the 18th century. Graph theory is the study of graphs that concerns with the relationship among edges and vertices. It is a popular subject having its applications in computer science, information technology, biosciences, and extensively in designing circuit connections. It is also used to represent networks of communication, data organization, to study molecules in chemistry, and so on. Now, let me give a brief introduction and basics of graph theory. A graph is a pictorial representation of a set of vertices and edges. That is, lines that connect the vertices are called edges. there are two types of graphs, directed graph and non-directed graph. In directed graph, edges with arrow marks, and these edges are represented by open brackets. Here, edge AB is different from BA. For this graph, we calculate in degree and out degree for every vertex. In degree of a vertex is number of edges coming to the vertex. Out degree of a vertex is number of edges going out of the vertex. In the first figure, we can see that in degree of A is 1 because only one edge coming to A. Out degree of A is 1, so only one edge going out of A. You can check the direction. Similarly, in degree of B is 1, out degree of B is 1, in degree of C is 1, out degree of C is 1, and in degree of D is 1, out degree of D is 1. In undirected graph, edges are represented by flower brackets. Here, edge AB is same as edge BA. A is adjacent to B and B is adjacent to A because there is an edge between A and B. A is not adjacent to C since there is no edge between A and C. Edge AD is adjacent to edge DC since there is a common vertex D. Edge AD is not adjacent to edge BC since there is no common vertex. In undirected graph, vertices are said to be adjacent if they have common edge. Edges are said to be adjacent if they have common vertex. So now how to find degree of a vertex? So degree of a vertex is the number of edges incident on that vertex. So here degree of A is 2. Why? Because 2 edges are incident on that vertex A. Similarly, you can check the other vertices of this undirected graph. Degree of vertex B is 2, C is 2, and D is also 2. And after finding the degrees of all vertices, we can write the degree sequence. What is a degree sequence? So degree sequence, we write it in increasing order. So here, the degree sequence is 2, 2, 2, 2. So here in this slide, so we learned what is undirected graph and what is directed graph, how to check degree of a vertex. So in this figure, this is a non-directed graph with loops at D and C. Loop is nothing but an edge. Its starting point and ending point is same. While calculating the degree of a vertex, loop is counted twice. Hence, the degree of a vertex D is 5. Degree of a vertex B is 3. Why? Because the number of edges incident on B is 3. I hope you all understood how to find the degree of a vertex in a non-directed graph. So we have to see how many edges are incident on that vertex. If you find a loop in non-directed graph, you should count it twice only while calculating the degree of a vertex. Suppose if you are counting the number of edges, in that case, loop will count only once. And the next slide, here, what is self-loop? Self-loop I already explained. Loop is nothing but starting and end points is same. While calculating the degree of a vertex, we'll count it twice. When you count the edges, we'll count only once. And edge is an edge that is between a vertex and to itself is called self-loop. If you find a loop in non-directed graph, then for a degree of a vertex, we'll count it twice. If you find a loop in directed graph, then for in degree, we'll count 1, and also for out degree, we'll count 1. So loop at a vertex contributes degree 2 for a non-directed graph. Loop at a vertex contributes in degree 1, out degree 1 for a directed graph. Next, order of G. Order of G is nothing but the number of vertices in G is called the order of G. Here, order of G is 4. Number of edges in G, how many edges are there in G? There are 7 edges. Therefore, size of the graph is 7. Vertices A and C are joined by more than one edge. So these edges are called multiple edges. Therefore, this graph is called multi-graph. So whenever you find multiple edges, then that graph is called multi-graph. So here between A and C, we find more than one edge. Therefore, this graph is called multi-graph. As I explained before, two vertices are adjacent if they have a common edge, and two edges are adjacent if they have a common vertex. In this graph, A and D are adjacent. Vertices D and B are not adjacent. Why vertices D and B are not adjacent? Because there is no common edge between D and B. Edge AD is not adjacent to edge BC since there is no common vertex. Whereas edge AD and edge AC are adjacent because there is a common vertex A. So now look at the figure. What is degree of a vertex E? No edge is incident on this vertex E. So the degree of vertex E is 0. So this vertex E is called isolated vertex. So whenever the degree of a vertex is 0, then that vertex is called isolated vertex. I already explained degree of a vertex, in degree and out degree. In a directed graph, in degree, we denote degree of V, we put the sign plus. For out degree, we put minus. And here, in this graph, we can see that we can find the degrees of all vertices. For a directed graph, we have to find in degree and out degree. So next is, what is simple path? So a path P is simple if all edges and vertices in that path are distinct. Only in a closed path, endpoints will be equal. In an open path, vertices and edges are distinct. So that is, vertices and edges are not repeated. Now look at the first figure. So find the degree of each vertex of this non-directed graph. As I explained before, degree of A is 2. Degree of B is 4. Since two edges and a loop are incident on B. And degree of C is 2. And degree of D is 3. Why? Because there are 3 edges incident on D. And degree of E is 1. Since there is only one edge incident on E. Now we will add degrees of all vertices. We get the sum as 12. So in this graph, how many edges are there? 6. So find 2 into number of edges, we will get it as 12. So sum of the degrees of all vertices is equal to twice the number of edges. This result is true for not only this particular graph, it is true for all undirected graphs. So you draw at random any graph and find out the degrees of all vertices, and you can see that sum of the degrees of all vertices is equal to twice the number of edges. And the number of vertices of odd degree in a graph is always even. In the first non-directed graph, we see that the number of odd degree vertices, the number is 4. Because degree of A is 5, degree of B is 3, degree of C is 3, degree of D is 3. So all are odd degree vertices. So number of odd degree vertices is equal to 4. So not only in this graph, if you draw any non-directed graph, after finding the degree of the vertices, you can observe that the number of vertices of odd degree will be always even. Also, we observe that the sum of the degrees of all vertices is equal to twice the number of edges. This is because while calculating the degree of a vertex, each edge is counted twice. For example, here you can look at the figure. You see the edge vertex while calculating the degree of a vertex D. While calculating the degree of a vertex D, we'll count the edge AD as well as we'll count the edge DC. So, while calculating the degree of a vertex in a non-directed graph, each edge is counted twice. That's why we are getting sum of the degrees of all vertices is equal to twice the number of edges. Now look at directed graph. So calculate in degree and out degree of all the vertices. Now add all the in degrees. The sum is 5. Add all the out degrees. The sum is 5. Number of edges also 5. So for any directed graph, we can see that sum of the degrees of all vertices is equal to sum of the out degrees of all vertices, which will be equal to number of edges. So here we see the problem. Suppose that G is a non-directed graph with 12 edges. So here number of edges is 12. And suppose G has 6 vertices of degree 3 and the remaining vertices of degree less than 3 determine the number of vertices. So here this is a standard result. We know we have proved sum of the degrees of all vertices is always twice the number of edges. So write the result and split the summation into 2. Sum is from I is equal to 1 to 6 and from 7 to V into 2 into, the 2 is missing, 2 into number of edges. Why we are splitting into 2 summations? Because the question it is given, it is from I is equal to 1 to 6. For 6 vertices, the degree is 3. So that's why we are splitting the summation like this. So for the first 6 vertices, you substitute degree as 3. So then you calculate the summation. How will you calculate the summation? Whenever the summation is given like this, you have to do upper limit minus lower limit plus 1. So here anyway it's starting from 1. So you will get 6 into the degree of Vi is 3 and second summation write as it is, which is equal to 24. Therefore the summation, if you simplify, you will get it as 6. Now we have to consider 2 cases because it is given the remaining vertices of degree less than 3. So the remaining vertices can be of degree 2 or degree 1. So when the remaining vertices is of degree 2, so substitute for all the vertices degree 2. Now the summation starting from 7. So how will you calculate the summation? Upper limit minus lower limit plus 1. So into that number 2 is equal to 6. Simplify, you will get number of vertices is equal to 9. Same way in the case 2, the remaining vertices is of degree 1. So substitute in the summation degree 1 and then again apply the same formula, simplify, you get number of vertices is equal to 12. The question is find the minimum number of vertices. Therefore here minimum number of vertices is equal to 9. The answer is 9. So this question, how many vertices will the following graph have if they contain 16 edges and all vertices of degree 2? Again, you will use the same result. For all the vertices, you will substitute degree 2. And B bit is same as just what we have done. And third bit is all the vertices of same degree. Same degree means we will substitute some constant K. So here we see that number of vertices in the first case, we are getting 16. And in the second case, we have to split the summations and we are getting number of vertices is equal to 13. And in the third case, all the vertices are having degree, same degree. So we are taking that as some constant K. The substitute, we are getting number of vertices is equal to 48 by K. Number of vertices cannot be a decimal or it's a fraction. So value of K is nothing but all the positive divisors of 48. So what are the divisors of 48? So 2, 3, 6 and so on, you have to substitute. So based on that, you will get number of vertices as 24, 16, 8, 6, 4, 2. The next is types of graph. So in this types, we have got multi-graph, finite graph, and regular graph. So what is this multi-graph? Whenever a graph has multiple edges and loop, if you find, we say that graph is multi-graph. What is finite graph? A graph is said to be finite if it has a finite number of vertices and finite number of edges. And the minimum degree of a vertex in the graph, we usually denote it as small delta g, and maximum degree of a vertex, we denote it as capital delta G. Now, what is regular graph? If the degree of all vertices are equal, then we call that graph as regular graph. See, look at the first graph, degree of all vertices is 3. Therefore, this graph is called regular graph, and we call this as 3 regular graph. Look at the second graph, it's a triangle graph. In this triangle graph, the degree of all vertices are equal and degree is 2. This graph is called 2 regular graph. So suppose if the degrees of all vertices is 8, then we call it as 8 regular graph. Next definition is subgraph. Let G be a graph, and a graph H is said to be a subgraph of G if the vertices of H are subset of vertices of G and edges of H is a subset of edges of G. Now, see, we have got graph G and H1, H2 and H3, and here H1 and H2 are subgraphs of G. Why? Because in H1, all the vertices are subset of G, and also all the edges which are H1 are present in G. That's why H1 is a subgraph. Similarly, H2 is also a subgraph of G. Now here in the third graph, H3 is not a subgraph. Though all the vertices of H3 are subset of G, but edges are not subset of edges of G. Why? Because in H3 we find a loop, but that loop is not present in G. Therefore, H3 is not a subgraph of G. So remember, subgraph means vertices and edges both should be subset of G. So otherwise, if one condition is not satisfying, then that graph is not a subgraph of the given graph. And the next is isomorphism. So isomorphism is nothing but, we say isomorph, there is a 1-to-1 correspondence should be there between the two graphs. So two graphs G and G dash are isomorphic if there is a function from vertices of G to vertices of G dash such that that function should be 1, 1, 2, and every pair of vertices U and V that belongs to that edge UV should belongs to E of G if and only if F of U, F of V belongs to edges of G dash, which means if U and V are adjacent in G, then F of U and F of V are adjacent in G dash. What do you mean by U and V are adjacent in G? Adjacent means U and the vertices are adjacent if there is a common edge. So whenever U and V are adjacent in G, F of U and F of V should be adjacent in G dash. So if these three conditions are satisfied, then we say the given graphs are isomorphic. Now look at these two graphs. These two graphs are isomorphic. So though they look different, but they are isomorphic graphs. Number of vertices of G, just count the number of vertices of G, that intersecting points. I didn't denote the vertices, but that intersecting points are vertices here. So number of vertices in G is 4, in G dash is also 4. Edges are also equal. And if we find out the degree of each vertex, we see that the degree sequence is 3, 3, 3. So degree sequence is also same. Anyway, by checking the equality of vertices, edges, and degree sequence, we cannot come to the conclusion that the graphs are isomorphic. Now I will show how to check isomorphism between two graphs using subgraph technique. Before going to the next slide, remember one point. Whenever we remove a vertex from the graph, we should remove all the edges which are incident on that vertex. Okay, whenever we delete a vertex from a graph, we have to remove all the edges which are incident on that vertex. Here the question is, which of the following? So two graphs are given. We have to check whether these two graphs are isomorphic or not. First, let us find the number of vertices in G and G dash. Number of vertices in G is equal to 6. And number of vertices in G dash is also 6. And count the number of edges in G and also in G dash. So both are equal to 9. Find the degrees of all vertices in G and then write the degree sequence. So what is the degree sequence in G? If you find the degrees of all vertices and put it in increasing order, that's how we get the degree sequence of G. So what is the degree sequence of G? 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Same way, you have to find degree sequence of G dash. So here also find the degrees of all vertices and put it in increasing order, we get degree sequence of G dash. So degree sequence of G dash here is also same. So here we observe that number of vertices, number of edges, degree sequence is same. Okay, at this stage, we cannot come to the conclusion that the given graphs are isomorphic. So what we have to check now? Though they have same number of vertices, same number of edges and same degree sequence, we cannot say the graphs are isomorphic. We have to get subgraphs of both the graphs and then we have to check whether the subgraphs are isomorphic or not. So how to get subgraphs? So consider a subset of vertices in G and G dash which are having same degree. So consider vertices of degree 2 in G and G dash. So you take vertices of degree 2 in both the graphs. Deleting vertices of degree 2 in G and G dash, vertices E and F are having degree 2 in G. And vertices A dash and D dash are having degree 2 in G dash. So look at the graph. Vertices E and F are having degree 2 in G and vertices A dash and D dash are having degree 2 in G dash. So remove E and F from G and remove A dash and D dash from G dash. So when you remove or when you delete these vertices, the edges incident on those vertices also should be removed. By deleting these vertices, we get new subgraphs H1 and H1 dash. Now, this subgraph H1 is nothing but G minus the vertices E and F because we have deleted vertices of degree 2 in both the graphs because both the graphs are having two vertices of degree 2. So from G, we have deleted two vertices of degree 2 and from G dash, we have deleted two vertices of degree 2. So by doing that, we got two subgraphs H1 and H1 dash. Now, let us check the number of vertices, edges and degree sequence in H1 and H1 dash. We see that they are all equal. By looking at the figure, we can say that H1 is isomorphic to H1 dash. By getting subgraph, we are making the complicated graph into a simple graph. So we can verify easily the isomorphism. If subgraphs are isomorphic, then the given graphs are also isomorphic. But we have to check for at least 3 sets of subgraphs and then come to the conclusion that they are isomorphic. While checking if one set of subgraphs are not isomorphic, then the given graphs are not isomorphic. Now let us consider the second set of subgraphs. Already we have considered deleting two vertices of degree 2. So now we should find second set of subgraphs. So now we delete vertices of degree 3 in G and G dash. So degree 3 vertices in G are C and A. In G dash, which are the vertices are having degree 3, F dash and E dash. So F dash and E dash are having degree 3. So remember, when you delete the vertices, the edges incident on those vertices also should be removed. So now we are deleting vertices of degree 3 from G as well as from G dash. So when you delete vertices of degree 3 in both the graphs, we get this graph. So subgraph H2 and H2 dash. Here you see number of vertices of H2 and number of vertices of H2 dash. They are equal. And number of edges in H2 is 4 and number of edges in H2 dash is 3. So number of edges are not equal. Therefore, H2 is not isomorphic to H2 dash. I told you if one set of subgraphs are isomorphic, then we can say the given graphs are not isomorphic. See, because in the first set we got those subgraphs are isomorphic. So immediately you cannot come to the conclusion that the given graphs are isomorphic. You have to go at least 3 sets of subgraphs and then you have to check whether all the subgraphs are isomorphic. Then only you can say the given graphs are isomorphic. If one set of subgraphs are not isomorphic, then we say the given graphs are not isomorphic. So here we have another set of graphs. We have to check the isomorphism. So here also we will count number of vertices. Yes, equal. Number of edges are also equal, and because the number of edges in both the graphs 6. And you see the degree sequence, degree of all vertices in both the graphs 3. So degree sequence is also same. So in this case, here we cannot say the graphs are isomorphic. So we can go at least 3 set of subgraphs. How do you take 3 set of subgraphs? So we can take, we can delete, first case, we can delete one vertex of degree 3 in both the graphs. In the second set of graphs, we can delete 2 vertices of degree 3 in both the graphs. When you take 2 vertices of degree 3, because since all the vertices are having degree 3, you can delete any 2 vertices. Again, in the third set, you can go delete any 3 vertices of degree 3. So you will get 3 set of subgraphs. So when you get 3 set of subgraphs, you can check the isomorphism easily, those subgraphs. If all the sets are isomorphic, all the set of subgraphs are isomorphic, then we can say the given graphs are isomorphic. So now here in the first set, I have deleted 3 vertices of degree 3. So I am getting H1 subgraph, just only one vertex. In H1 dash, I am getting just one vertex. Okay, so both are isomorphic. Again, in the second set, I have deleted one vertex of degree 3. So we are getting this H2 and H2 dash. We see that the degree sequence vertices, edges are equal. And then third set, we are deleting 2 vertices of degree 3. And here again, we observe that the subgraphs are isomorphic. Therefore, now we can conclude that the given graphs are isomorphic. And the next is, this graph is called star graph because it looks like a star. We call it as star graph. This shape of the graphs looks like a star. This graph belongs to the family of complete bipartite graph. This graph is denoted by K1n. I will explain about a complete bipartite graph in later slides. Now, this graph K1n is called star graph. The next graph is a cycle graph. Is nothing but a closed path in which edges and vertices are distinct. That is, vertices and edges are not repeated. Also, the number of vertices and edges are equal. There are 4 vertices and 4 edges in cycle graph C4. For example, if you take cycle graph C5, how many vertices and edges? There will be 5 vertices and 5 edges. Now, in the second graph, we have a triangle graph. Here, this is nothing but C3 graph. So here, there are it looks like a triangle. Here we call it a cycle graph, that is C3 graph. C3 graph means there will be 3 vertices and 3 edges. The next one is complete graph. Complete graph is nothing but a simple graph consisting of vertices and edges, such that every edge joins 2 vertices and every pair of vertices is connected by an edge. In general, we denote the complete graph with n vertices by kn, and the number of edges in the complete graph is n into n minus 1 by 2. Here n represents the number of vertices. You can see here K1, K2, K3, K4 and K5 graph. So you can check, for example, in K4, number of vertices is equal to 4. Number of edges will be, use that formula, n into n minus 1 by 2. That is 4 into 3 by 2, which is 6. So here we see that there are 6 edges in K4. So remember, in complete graph, this is called complete graph. Every vertex will be adjacent to every other vertex of the graph. So all the vertices are adjacent to each other. So there is a common vertex. So next is a wheel graph. A wheel graph of order n. Order means, remember, number of vertices. A wheel graph of order n is a graph obtained by joining a single new vertex to each vertex of a cycle graph of order n minus 1. Here order means number of vertices. Now, for example, look at W4. You can observe that wheel shape. So here we see that there is a cycle graph C3 and a new vertex which is in the middle is connected to all the vertices of cycle C3. Similarly, you look at W5, there is C4 cycle graph and a vertex which is in the middle is connected to all the vertices of cycle graph C4. Number of edges in wheel graph is 2n minus 2. Okay, number of edges in wheel graph is 2n minus 2. For example, you substitute in W5. What is W5? N is equal to, how many edges are there in W5? So n is equal to here 5. So number of edges in W5 is, use the formula 2n minus 2. Substitute n as 5. How much you will get? 2 into 5 minus 2, which is 8. We see that there are 8 edges in W5. Next is path graph. A path graph of order n is obtained by removing an edge from a cycle graph of order n. It's denoted by Pn. Such type of graphs we call it as open path graph. Open path graph with n vertices is denoted by Pn. So number of edges in Pn is equal to n minus 1. Here you see the first graph is P1, just a dot. P2, you see there are 2 vertices and 1 edge. So if it is P2, only 1 edge. The next graph is P3, there are 2 edges. In P4, there are 3 edges. So in P1, by the formula, number of edges is equal to n minus 1. So number of edges is 0. The next is null graph. A null graph of order n is a graph with n vertices and no edges. Here a few examples for null graphs, and they are n1, n2, n3. Only vertices will be there. There are no edges. The next important thing is complement of a graph. See, complete graph is different from complement. Complete graph is every vertex will be adjacent to every other vertex of the graph. And the number of edges in complete graph is n into n minus 1 by 2. Here it's a complement of a graph. What is complement of a graph? Let G is a simple graph with n vertices, and G complement is a complement of G in complete graph Kn. The complement graph should satisfy this condition. number of edges in G plus number of edges in G complement should be equal to number of edges in the complete graph. See, the first graph is G. Here, the first graph is G, and this is G complement. So here, this is graph G. This is the complement, and here, how many vertices are there? 4 vertices. Therefore, number of edges in G plus number of edges in G complement should be equal to number of edges in K4. Now, let us draw the complement graph for the given graph. In the given graph, we have 4 vertices and 5 edges. So in this graph, we have 4 vertices and 5 edges. Now to draw complement graph, let us plot the same vertices which are given in G, which are A, B, C, D. So remember, in the complement graph, you will have same number of vertices. While drawing complement, we have to follow this. If there is an edge between 2 vertices in G, then there should not be an edge between those 2 vertices in the complement graph. Similarly, if there is no edge between 2 vertices in G, then there should be an edge between those 2 vertices in G dash. So in the given graph, there is an edge between A and B. So here you see there is an edge between A and B. Here there is edge between A and B. In the complement graph, there should not be an edge between A and B. Here there is no edge between A and C. Therefore, here there should be an edge between A and C. After drawing the complement graph, we have to check number of edges in G plus number of edges in G complement should be equal to number of edges in the complement graph. Here we have to see number of edges in the complement graph K4. So here how many edges will be there? Number of edges will be there in complement graph K4, 4 into 3 by 2. So you will have 6 edges. So number of edges in G is 5. Number of edges in G complement is, here we have 1. So 5 plus 1, that is equal to 6. So number of edges in complete graph is also 6. Therefore, our complement graph is correct. The next one, bipartite graph. Bipartite graph is a graph whose vertices can be divided into 2 disjoint sets such that each edge joins a vertex in the first set to a vertex in the second set. In the first figure, first set, the first set means in the first row. And we have got 2 sets. One set is the first row, the other set is in the second row. In the first figure, first set has 3 vertices and second set has 2 vertices. Each edge joins a vertex in the first row to a vertex in the second row. And also, we observe that there is no edge between the vertices which are in the first set, and also in the same way, we observe there is no edge which joins vertices in the second row. So this is called bipartite graph. So you will have 2 different set of vertices. What is complete bipartite graph? In complete bipartite graph, every vertex of first set is connected to every vertex of the second set. Here in this graph, say K23, first set has 2 vertices and the second set has 3 vertices. Consider the first vertex in the first set, and this vertex is connected to all the vertices of the second set. Take a second vertex in the first set, and this is connected to all the vertices of the second set. So this graph is denoted by K23. So number of vertices in K23 is 2 plus 3. This is 5. So number of vertices is 5. Number of edges is 2 into 3. How many edges? 6. So similarly, you look at K33 graph. In K33 graph, number of vertices will be 3 plus 3, 6 vertices. Number of edges will be 3 into 3, 9 edges. So if you count it and see, you will find there are 9 edges. So in general, complete bipartite graph is denoted by KMN. So number of vertices is M plus N and number of edges is equal to M into N. So whenever any graph satisfies the above equation, what is that equation? Sum of the vertices is equal to that is in KMN. If two numbers m and n, the sum should be m plus n, and the product is number of edges, then that graph is called complete bipartite graph. Now here, look at this problem. Let G be a simple graph, all whose vertices have degree 3 and number of edges. Number of edges is equal to 2v minus 3. What can be said about the graph G? They have given all the vertices are having degree 3 and number of edges is given. But here, so far we know one result, sum of the degrees of all vertices is twice the number of edges in any non-directed graph. So we substitute for all the degrees, we'll substitute degree as 3. So when you substitute degree 3, and in the problem it is given number of edges is equal to 2v minus 3. So substitute 2v minus 3 as number of edges. So summation 3 is equal to 2 into, in place of number of edges, you substitute 2v minus 3. There's 2 missing there, 2v minus 3. And calculate the summation. I told you already how to calculate the summation. Upper limit minus lower limit plus 1 into number 3. So simplify, you will get number of vertices is equal to 6. Substitute number of vertices is equal to 6. In one of the equation, it's given there, number of edges is equal to 2v minus 3. Substitute, you will get number of edges is 9. So here, number of vertices is 6. That is m into n. And m plus n, and number of edges is equal to m into n. So number of vertices is 3 plus 3, number of edges is 3 into 3. So it satisfies that the complete bipartite graph equation. Therefore, this graph is nothing but complete bipartite graph. And here the question is, let Cn be the cycle graph with n vertices. Prove that C5 is the only cycle graph which is isomorphic to its complement. I have already explained what is a cycle graph and what is how to check the isomorphism, and also I have explained how to get a complement of a graph. So now here the question is, show that C5 is the only cycle graph which is isomorphic to its complement. So we'll assume, suppose Cn and Cn complement are isomorphic to each other. If they are isomorphic, we can say number of edges in Cn will be equal to number of edges in Cn complement by the definition of isomorphism. Now, how many edges are there in cycle graph? I told you in a cycle graph C4, there will be 4 edges. In cycle graph C5, there are 5 edges. Similarly, in cycle graph Cn, there will be n edges. So substitute number of edges in Cn as n. And then, how to get number of edges in Cn complement? Remember, I told you one equation. Whenever you go for a complement graph, number of edges in G plus number of edges in G complement is equal to number of edges in the complete graph. So here, number of edges in Cn complement, using that equation, we can substitute as number of edges of Kn minus number of edges in Cn. So now, in the next equation, so n is equal to, how many edges are there? Kn. What is Kn? Complete graph. How many edges are there in Kn? N into n minus 1 by 2 minus, again, how many edges are there in Cn? N edges. So it's just a equation. You can easily simplify. Right hand side, take n outside, simplify, you will get n is equal to 5. What does n represents here? N represents number of vertices. Therefore, we have assumed, suppose Cn and Cn complement are isomorphic to each other. We arrived at n is equal to 5, which means C5 is the only cycle graph which is isomorphic to its complement. Now here we can check in the figure. See, what is C1? C1, it will have one vertex, one edge, that, which means it is nothing but a loop. So C1, how to draw complement for C1? So you have to take one vertex. Because there is an edge there should not be edge in complement. So C1 complement has only one vertex. So now C1 and C1 complement are not isomorphic because number of edges are not equal. Same way, draw C2. In C2, there are 2 vertices and 2 edges. Draw closed path. Draw And what will be the complement? In complement, there will be no edges. So here number of edges are not equal. Therefore, C2 is not isomorphic to C2 complement. Similarly, you can check C3 and C4. They are not isomorphic. Now come to C5. In C5 graph, we have 5 vertices and 5 edges. So draw the complement graph. So I told you already how to draw complement graph. Take the same number of vertices, and if there is an edge, there should not be an edge here. And if there is no edge in G, there should be an edge in complement. So use that rule and draw the complement graph. You will get C5 complement. Now look at C5 and C5 complement. And number of vertices are equal, number of edges are equal, degree sequence is equal. And here I told you, whenever checking the isomorphism, you should not stop here. You have to go for subgraph technique. Use subgraph and check. You will find that this C5 is isomorphic to C5 complement. So in cycle graph, C5 is the only graph which is isomorphic to its complement. And here, what is connected graph? So connected graph means all the vertices are connected. No vertex should be left up. No vertex should be an isolated vertex. What do you mean by isolated vertex? No edges incident on the vertex. So if all the graphs vertices are connected, you can go from one vertex to any vertex of the graph. So there should be a path between any pair of vertices. Then such type of graph, we call it as connected graph. Now here, if the graph is not connected, we say the graph is disconnected. Whenever we find a disconnected graph, we will find connected components. Here the question is, determine whether each of the graphs are connected. So now you look at the first graph A. See here all the vertices are connected. See, if you start at A, you can go to any point. So all the vertices are connected. And look at B. Here the graph is not connected. Why? Because you have connected components. What are the connected components? You have ABY is one connected component and XC is one connected component. Now look at C. All the vertices are connected. So this is a connected graph. So here A and C are connected graphs and B is not connected. If the graph is not connected, we'll have connected components. So here B is not connected graph, but it has connected components. What are the connected components? A, B, Y and XC. Then here the question again, find the connected components of the following graph. So here look at the first graph and there you see you have only connected components because the graph is not connected. Whenever the graph is not connected, we'll have connected components. So what are the connected components? A, B, C, D is one connected component. And then E, F, G is one connected component, and H, I is one connected component, and J, K is one connected component, and L is one connected component. So remember, whenever the graph is not connected, we call it as it's a disconnected graph. Whenever the graph is disconnected, we will have connected components. Next, draw the graph K24. What is K24? It's a complete bipartite graph. Here K24 means you will have two sets of vertices. The first set will have 2 vertices and the second set will have 4 vertices. And here how many vertices will be there? 2 plus 4. How many edges? 2 into 4. There are 8 edges in this complete graph. Sorry, complete bipartite graph. Here a graph is given. The question is find a K cycle for K is equal to 3, K is equal to 4, K is equal to 5 and K is equal to 6. So now we have to find out a cycle of length 3, length 4, length 5, length 6. What do you mean by a cycle of length 3? That means the cycle, the number of edges present in that cycle, we call it as a length of the cycle. So here, suppose if the length of the cycle is 3, we call it as 3 cycle. If the length of the cycle is 4, we call it as 4 cycle. So here, look at the graph, and here you see the cycle starting and end point will be same. Look at the cycle B, C, D, B. In this cycle B, C, D, B. So what is the length of that cycle? Length of the cycle is 3. Why? Because the number of edges present in that cycle is 3. And the next one, you see A start at A, B, D, E, A. You are starting at A and you are ending at A. So number of edges present in that cycle is 4. And the next cycle, number of edges, A start at A, B, C, D, E, A. So in this cycle, number of edges in that cycle is 5. And they are asking us to find a cycle of length 6. So in this graph, we cannot find a cycle of length 6. There is no cycle of length 6. The next is planar graph. So what is planar graph? So a graph is said to be planar if we are able to draw the given graph without crossing the edges. Otherwise, the given graph is said to be non-planar graph. So look at the first graph. Here we see the complete graph K4. We are able to draw without crossing the edges. See, in the second graph, the same K4 graph we have drawn without crossing the edges. So therefore, this K4 graph we are able to draw without crossing the edges. Therefore, K4 we can call it as planar graph. So K1, what is this? K4 is called complete graph. So I told you what is K1, I showed you what is K1, K2, K3 and K4. So K1, K2, K3, K4. See, K1 is just a dot. K2 will be just a line. K3, remember, just triangle. K4 will be a square with the diagonals. So with the diagonals, these diagonals, there are crossovers. So same, those diagonals we can draw without crossing the edges. Therefore, this K4 is planar. So K1 is planar, K2 is planar, K3 is planar, K4 is planar. Look at K5. K5, there are how many edges? K5, how many edges will be there? What is the formula for Kn? N into n minus 1 by 2. For K5, n is here 5. So n into n minus 1, 5 into 4 by 2, that is 10. There are 10 edges in this graph. So we can draw 9 edges without crossing. But one edge we cannot draw without crossing. That's why K5 is not planar. So whereas the complete graph K4 is planar, but K5 is not planar. So here, using this planar, we can solve this problem. So that here the question is, we have 3 houses and 3 utility outlets. Okay, we have 3 houses and 3 utility outlets. What are those utility outlets? Electricity, gas, and water. The question here is it possible to connect electricity, gas, water to each of the 3 houses without lines crossing? See now, when you say 3 houses and 3 utilities, immediately we can make out it is nothing but a complete bipartite graph K33. But here K33 is not a planar graph because K11, K12, K21, K23, K32, they're all planar graphs. But K33 is not a planar graph. Why? Because the K33 graph, we can draw all the edges without crossing, but except one edge. Therefore, K33 is not planar. Because K33 graph is not planar, this won't be possible. So here they are asking whether here number of edges, how many edges are there? 9. So when we draw this graph, only one edge will not be possible. So without line crossing. Therefore, we can say one house will not get any one of the connections without crossing the lines. Hence, it's not possible to connect each utility to each of the 3 houses without lines crossing. See here in this problem, suppose there are 5 houses and 2 utilities situated. So is this possible? So in this question, we have 5 houses and 2 utilities, gas and water. This case is nothing but, see, in the first set you have 5 vertices. There are 5 houses, isn't it? The first figure shows K phi 2 graph. First set has 5 vertices. They are H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 houses. And in the second set, 2 vertices, that is gas and water. So this is possible because we know K phi 2 graph is planar. Because K phi 2 graph we can draw without crossing the edges. See in the second figure, look at the second figure. We are able to draw the same graph without crossing the edges. So it's possible to connect each utility to each of the 3 houses without line crossing. Therefore, this is possible. Therefore, it's possible to connect each utility to each of the 5 houses without lines crossing. Now here the question is, check whether K phi minus E. What does this E means? Edge. See, we know K phi is not planar. Why K phi is not planar? We are able to draw all the edges of K phi without crossing the edges except one edge. So if you remove that one edge, definitely that graph K phi minus E should be planar graph. And the next one is a planar. What is map? A planar representation of a finite planar multigraph is called a map. See, sometimes you see a planar graph with crossovers. So how K4? K4 graph, it's a square with the diagonals. But the same graph we are able to draw without crossing the edges. So since the graph is planar, we can draw the graph without crossing. Such representation is called map. In this map, we can easily make out the regions. See, whenever they ask us to find out the regions, this is possible only for planar graphs. If the graph is not planar, we cannot draw the edges without crossing. Then in that case, we cannot make out the regions. So here, this graph is planar. So easily we can make out that we are able to draw without crossing. So easily we can make out the regions. Now you look at the first figure. See, they are all called regions. See, they are all, see, R1, R6, R3, R2, R4, they are all regions. They are called internal regions. See, we will find one region which is outside R5. This R5 is called external region. So how to get the degree of a region? The first figure, for example, you take R2. So R2, how to find out the degree of the region R2? You have to check what are the edges surrounding that region. So what are the edges? How many edges? How many edges are there? You have to count those edges. Those number of edges will give you degree of that region. Look at the second figure. In the second figure, see R1. R1, what is the degree of R1? 3. Why? Because there are 3 edges surrounding the region. And degree of R2 is also 3. Now what about the exterior region? Here the exterior region is R3. So the exterior region, how to calculate the degree of the exterior region? So you have to see how many edges are there in the boundary. So you have to count all the edges which are in the boundary. So you count and see in the second figure, there are 8 edges are in the boundary. Therefore, degree of the external region is 8. See, internal region, you can easily find out. When you find out the degree of external region, you have to be a little careful and just you have to see how many edges are there in the boundary. And the next, a dual graph. Now, you read the definition of a dual graph. Using these conditions, we can draw a dual of any given graph G. So what is given in the statement? Given a planar graph G, we can define another multigraph G star as follows. So we have to consider for every region of G, there is a vertex R star of G star. And then after finding the vertices, then we have to draw by looking at the graph G. For every edge, you can draw edge in G star. after drawing the dual graph, we have to check this condition. Number of vertices, number of regions in G should be equal to number of vertices in G star. Okay, and then number of edges in G will be equal to number of edges in G star, and also number of vertices in G will be equal to number of regions in G star. So if this condition is satisfied, then we can say our dual graph is absolutely correct. So now find the dual graph of the following graph. See, remember, we can draw dual graph only for planar graphs. Now the first graph is here. This is a graph given. So the question is, we have to find out the dual of this graph G. So what is the first step for finding the dual? First step is that because the graph is planar, we can draw without crossing the edges. So first, this graph is given in the question. We have to find out the dual graph. So first, you draw the same graph without crossing the edges. Okay, first draw without crossing the edges. Now, after drawing the same graph without crossing the edges, you find out the regions of this graph. So how many regions are there? So R1, so this one, this 2, and here 3, and inside the loop 4, and then the exterior region. Okay, so therefore we have got 5 regions. Now see here this GF. This GF, we call it as cut edge. What do you mean by cut edge? See, if you remove this edge, this line segment, if you remove this edge, what happens? The graph becomes disconnected. Why? Because G becomes isolated vertex. Therefore, such edge is called cut edge. For example, if I remove the edge ED, if I remove this edge, this line segment ED, nothing will happen to this graph. Still the graph will be connected. Therefore, edge ED is not a cut edge. But whereas this GF, this edge GF is called cut edge. Why? Because if you remove this edge GF, the graph becomes disconnected. That's why this graph, this edge GF is called a cut edge. Now here you see we have a loop. Okay, here it's a loop. So in dual graph, every cut edge in G will become a loop in G star, and every loop in G will become a cut edge in G star. So these are the conditions. So for drawing the dual graph, first we have to draw without crossing the edges. Because it is a planar graph, this is possible. After drawing without crossing, find the degree, find out the regions. You find how many regions are there, and then you see whether any cut edge or loop. Okay. Next one. So here we have found out the regions R1, R2, here R3, R4, the exterior region is R5. So now how to draw dual graph? So here we have to take, if there are 5 regions, for every region there should be a vertex in G star. So since there are 5 regions, so in G star you consider 5 vertices. You name those 5 vertices as R1 star, R2 star, R3 star, R4 star, R5 star. So after plotting these vertices, now consider each and every edge. So here you see the edge AB. This edge AB divides the region R2 and R4. So this region is, this is R2 and this is R4. So this edge AB divides R2 and R4. So you have to join here R2 star and R4 star. Next, come to like that, you have to consider each and every edge. For example, you consider this edge. This edge you consider. This edge divides R2 and R1. So we have to join here R2 star and R1 star. Now you see this edge G, this edge divides only R5, isn't it? This GF divides only R5. So I said a cut edge will become a loop. So here this cut edge divides R5. So therefore, you will find at R5, you will find a loop. This cut edge divides R5. This becomes loop at R5. And here you see this loop edge, this edge you see, this edge divides the region R3 and R4. Therefore, this loop will become here R3 star and R4 star edge. See, this loop becomes a cut edge here. See, in this dual graph, if you remove this edge, this graph becomes disconnected because the R3 star will become an isolated vertex. So, every cut edge becomes a loop and every loop becomes a cut edge. And then like that, you have to consider each and every edge of the graph and then you have to draw here. See, for example, this edge divides the region R4 and R5. So here you have to join R4 star and R5 star. So number of edges in G will be equal to number of edges in G star. And number of regions in G will be equal to number of vertices in G star. And here number of vertices in G will be equal to number of regions in G star. See here how many vertices are there here. Here how many vertices? There are 7 vertices. If there are 7 vertices, here there will be 7 regions. You see the regions. What are the regions? 1, 2, 3, and this is one region 4. It is 5. Inside the loop 6 and 7. So this condition will satisfy. Number of vertices in G is equal to number of regions in G star, and number of regions in G is equal to number of vertices in G star, and number of edges in G is equal to number of edges in G star. Now the next question is, show that the following graph is self-dual. So what is the definition of self-dual? A graph, see when I say plane graph, or we can call it as planar graph. The planar graph G is said to be self-dual if it is isomorphic to its dual. See, you know what is planar graph and what is dual and what is isomorphism. So a planar graph G is self-dual if it is isomorphic to its dual. So here, this is the graph given. We have to find a dual graph. So how will you find the dual graph? First, we have to write if it is any crossovers. First, you have to draw without crossing the edges. Here, there are no crossovers. So easily, first step, you can skip and easily you can make out the regions. You name the regions as A, B, C, D, E, and the exterior region, you name it as F. So there are how many regions? There are 6 regions. So in 6 regions, then you take here 6 vertices. See, you can plot anywhere, you have to plot but 6 vertices. You name them as A dash, B dash, C dash, and so on. And then for every region, so here we have to consider every edge of this graph. Suppose this edge divides the region A and F. So you have to join here A dash and F dash. Like that, you have to consider each and every edge. So this edge divides the region B and F. So here you have to connect B dash and F dash. So you will find number of edges in G will be equal to number of edges in G dash. So again, number of regions in G will be equal to number of vertices in G dash. And then number of vertices in G will be equal to number of regions in G dash. So when you draw this A dash and E dash, so here we will find out the regions and those two will be equal. So now we have to find, after finding dual, we have to check the isomorphism. We have to, how will you check the isomorphism? You have to check number of vertices, number of edges, and degree sequence. So after checking, you cannot decide they are isomorphic. You have to go for again 3 sets of subgraphs. If everything is satisfied, then we say this graph is isomorphic to its dual. Therefore, the given graph is called self-dual. And then Euler's formula, we can call it as, this is Euler's formula or Euler's formula. So what is this formula for planar graphs? So if G is connected, what do you mean by connected? All the vertices are connected, no isolated vertex. If G is connected planar graph, Then number of vertices minus number of edges plus number of regions is equal to 2. So here you draw any multi-graph. Okay, you can draw non-directed graph, you can draw simple graph. Simple graph means what? No loops, no multiple edges. Draw simple graph or multi-graph or with loops, multiple edges, whatever it is, this formula will satisfy. Now we have drawn but that graph should be a planar graph. See, we have taken a graph, no crossovers, so this is planar. Now count number of vertices. So how many vertices are here? Vertices are 6. And how many edges are there? So if you count the edges, there are 11. See, while counting the edges, we'll count loop as only once. I told you already, whenever you count the edges, we'll count loop only once. Only while calculating the degree of a vertex C, we'll calculate the loop as twice. Okay, so what is the degree of a vertex C? Degree of a vertex C is 2 edges are incident and loop, so degree of vertex is 4. But while calculating number of edges, loop is counted only once. So here, how many edges are there? There are 11 edges, and here vertices is 6, and regions. How many regions are there? So I have put in red color, the regions are 7. So substitute in this equation will satisfy. Therefore, any connected planar graph satisfies number of vertices minus number of edges plus number of regions is equal to 2. This is called Euler's formula. And then this graph, this is called Krotowski's graph. See, in complete graphs, I told you in complete graphs, K1, K2, K3, K4, all those graphs we can draw without crossing the edges. Only K5 graph is not planar, only one edge is not possible. Similarly, in complete bipartite graph, this K11, K2, 2, 3, 3, 1, the less than 3, they're all planar graphs. Only from K3, 3 onwards, it is not planar. Therefore, these two graphs are called Krotowski's graph. The next is Hamiltonian graph. Now, what is Hamiltonian graph? A graph is said to be Hamiltonian if there exists a Hamiltonian cycle. What is this Hamiltonian cycle? Hamiltonian cycle is nothing but a cycle containing every vertex of the given graph G. Suppose if they give you one graph, any complicated graph, you have to find a path. You should start at one vertex. You should go through all the vertices of the graph only once. Remember, we have to go through all the vertices of the given graph and come back to the same vertex. If you find such a cycle, then we say that graph has Hamiltonian cycle. If the graph has Hamiltonian cycle, then we say the given graph is called Hamiltonian. In some cases, you will start at one point, you will traverse all the vertices of the graph, but you cannot come back to the same point. You will reach at the last vertex of that graph. If you traversed all the vertices, but you are not able to come back to the original point, then that path is called Hamiltonian path. So Hamiltonian path endpoints will not be equal. Hamiltonian cycle endpoints are equal. But in Hamiltonian path, all the vertices of the graph are present. But whenever the graph has Hamiltonian path, we cannot say the graph is Hamiltonian graph. Only when it has Hamiltonian cycle, we say the graph is Hamiltonian graph. Okay. So every Hamiltonian cycle is a Hamiltonian path, but Hamiltonian path need not be a Hamiltonian cycle. So here we start at E and we go through all the vertices of the graph, and then we cannot come back to E in this case, but this path traverses all the vertices of the graph. So this path is called Hamiltonian path. So this graph has only a Hamiltonian path. It does not have Hamiltonian cycle. Therefore, this graph is not Hamiltonian. Next, you look at this graph. Now here, see the method, what I am telling is just trial and error method. You have to arbitrarily choose any one vertex. Okay. you have to take one word. For example, if you take a vertex, see any one vertex you can take. Say for example, if you take a vertex A, you start at vertex A. So there are many edges present in this graph, but your aim is to touch all the vertices and you should try to come back to the same point A. Okay, so now if you start at A, now you from A go to B. Okay, B to C, and then C to D, then D to H, H to G, G to F, F to E, and E to A. So now, see, your starting point is A and end point is also A. And you covered all the vertices of the graph. So this is a cycle, because whenever starting and end point, remember in this cycle, vertices again should not be repeated. You see, starting and only end points will be same. Other vertices should not be repeated. So this is Hamiltonian cycle. So this graph has Hamiltonian cycle. Therefore, we say this graph is called Hamiltonian. Now look at this graph, and here if you start at any one point, you cannot come back to the same point. So this graph, we cannot find out Hamiltonian cycle in this graph. Therefore, we say this graph is not Hamiltonian. So here we cannot find a cycle. You just check which passes through all the vertices of the graph. But we can find a path which passes through all the vertices of the graph. See, if we start at G, we can go to E, and then E to B, B to A to C, C to F, F to D. So if you start at G, easily you can go to D, covering all the vertices, but endpoints are not same. Therefore, this has only Hamiltonian path, but it does not have Hamiltonian cycle. Therefore, we say this graph is not Hamiltonian. So here again, you can check arbitrarily. You have to choose any one vertex and you have to try to pass through all the vertices. Here, we observe that this graph, if you try, you cannot find Hamiltonian path or a Hamiltonian cycle. So hence, this graph has neither a Hamiltonian path nor a Hamiltonian cycle. Yeah, this graph also has no Hamiltonian cycle, only it has Hamiltonian path. So if we start at A, it passes through all the vertices of the graph, but endpoints are not equal. Therefore, this graph has only Hamiltonian path and it does not have Hamiltonian cycle. Therefore, this graph is not Hamiltonian. And the next one is chromatic number. Chromatic number, here it is nothing but coloring the vertices. So when you color the vertices, we have to use certain condition, and then minimum number of colors used, we call it as chromatic number. What is that condition? The condition name is proper coloring. What do you mean by proper coloring? Adjacent vertices should have different color. What do you mean by adjacent vertices? Adjacent vertices means they will have common edge. Two vertices are said to be adjacent if they have common edge. But here the condition is adjacent vertices should have different color. Okay, adjacent vertices should not have same color. That is, adjacent vertices should have different color. That is called proper coloring. So while coloring the vertices, you should use the condition of proper coloring. Then what is chromatic number? Minimum number of colors used for proper coloring is called chromatic number. So when you color the vertices, when you find the minimum number of colors, that we call it as chromatic number. Same way, we can say edge chromatic number. We also have region chromatic number. We can even color the edges. Even same condition, even coloring the edges. Adjacent edges should not have same color. What do you mean by adjacent edges? Adjacent edges, two edges are said to be adjacent if they have common vertex. So in proper coloring, adjacent edges should not have same color. Similarly, you can find out region chromatic number. What is region chromatic number? Again, here we are coloring the regions. What do you mean by again using the same condition, proper coloring? Adjacent regions should not have same color. When do you say two regions are adjacent? If they have common edge. Okay, two regions are said to be adjacent if they have common edge. There again, you have to use the rule proper coloring. So minimum number of colors used, we call it as, if you color the vertices, we call it as chromatic number. You color the edges, if you find minimum number of colors, that is called edge chromatic number. You color the regions, and if you find minimum number of colors used for region coloring is called region chromatic number. Now here, the question is find the chromatic number. Chromatic number means coloring the vertices. Edge chromatic number, coloring the edges. Region chromatic number, coloring the regions. So here, we have to use the rule proper coloring. Adjacent vertices should not have same color, but you should use only minimum number of colors. So here in this graph, we have colored the vertices. So we color, we'll take it as color 1, color 2, color 3. So how many colors we have used in this graph? 4 colors. There are 4 colors used in this graph. This is the minimum colors we can use. See, for the vertex E, we cannot put 3. Because we have to use minimum number of colors, I cannot put E as 3. Why? Because E is, the vertex E here is adjacent to C. Adjacent to C, that vertex is having color 3, so I cannot give color 4 for the vertex E. Okay? I cannot give color 1. Why? Because this E is adjacent to 1. So I cannot give 1. And then this E is adjacent to B, I cannot give color 2. Okay, therefore, I have to give color 4 to the vertex E. So, minimum number of colors used for this graph is 4. Therefore, chromatic number of this graph is 4. Now, what is the chromatic number of the cycle graph Cn, Kn, Kmn tree with n vertices? So Cn means we have to find out what is the chromatic number of C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, at least C6 up to C6. And then by looking at the chromatic numbers, we can generalize the result. So now for C1, you will just find a loop. So you will color only one color. C2, you need 2 colors. For C3, C3 is this figure. So C3 here, we are using how many colors? We have to use 3 colors. Because here I cannot give 2 because this is adjacent to this vertex, this is also adjacent to this. So I can't give 1 or 2, so I have to give 3. So it is 3. And then C4, what is cycle graph C4? It's a square, C4. So here 1, 2, here again I can give 1 because this vertex is not adjacent to this vertex. Since they are not adjacent, when do you say adjacent? If there is a common edge, there is no edge between these 2 vertices. So I can give the same color. So here chromatic number is minimum number of colors used. So I have given 1, 2, 1, 2. So here chromatic number is 2. Then you take cycle graph C5. There you have to use 3 colors. So here we need 3 colors. So from these 3, I can generalize the cycle graph Cn will be 3. You can see the number of vertices here, number of vertices 3, here number of vertices 4, here again number of vertices 5, odd number. So whenever it is even, we find chromatic number is 2. Whenever it is odd, here the chromatic number is 3. Again, complete graph. So these are the complete graphs. This is K1, K2, K3, K4. They have asked what is the chromatic number of Kn. So you have to find what is the chromatic number of K1. It is 1. For K2, we have to use 2 colors. For K3, we have to use 3 colors. Why we are here? We need 4 colors. Similarly, K5, we need 5 colors because in complete graph, every vertex is adjacent to every other vertex. Therefore, for all the vertices, we have to use different color. So therefore, the chromatic number of Kn is 4. And the next one is bipartite graph. See, in a bipartite graph, we have two sets of vertices. See, here we observe that in this set, there are two vertices. They are not adjacent. There is no edge between this set. So we can give same color. And here in the second set, there is no edge between these vertices. Therefore, we can give same color. Here you see K33. In the first set, we have 3 vertices. And second set, we have 3 vertices. They are not adjacent to each other. So we can give same color. So for any bipartite graph or complete bipartite graph, the chromatic number is 2. And then here, what is the region chromatic number? I told you. So you have to color the regions using proper coloring. What is proper coloring? Adjacent regions should not have same color. When do you say two regions are adjacent? If they have common edge. See here, we have colored here blue and green because these two regions, they are adjacent regions. So here, what is this edge? There is a common edge between these two regions. Therefore, these two regions are adjacent. So when they are adjacent, you have to give a different color. See here, this exterior region. This exterior region will be adjacent to all the regions. Therefore, we have given a different color. So this, what is the region chromatic number for this graph? 4, and here it is 5. The next one, wheel graph. I already told you wheel graph, how many vertices in Wn. N represents number of vertices and number of edges will 2n minus 2. So here in the wheel graph, here we see that we can find, we are coloring the vertices. You color the vertices, you take, because it is asked for Wn. Whenever it is asked for Wn, you have to draw W1, W2, W3, W4, W5. If you draw at least 5 to 6 graphs, then you can generalize it by seeing the graphs, what is the chromatic number. So we find that whenever it is odd, whenever other than except when n is, you have to start from n is greater than or equal to 3. When n is odd, the chromatic number is 3. When n is even, the chromatic number is 4. When n is 1, the chromatic number is 1. When n is 2, chromatic number is 2. But when n is greater than or equal to 3, then the chromatic number of Wn is 3 if n is odd, and it is 4 when n is even. See here, what is this graph? This graph is nothing but W9. So here there are 9 vertices. Here 9 vertices, and find out the chromatic number. So here again, so we'll color, if you color this vertex is 1, because this vertex is adjacent to all the vertices. So we can't give for these vertices 1. So you have to choose other numbers. And then, for example, if you are starting here, you are coloring this vertex 2. And here you will color 3. So again, you can color this vertex as 2 because this vertex and this vertex is not adjacent. There is no common edge between this 2 and this vertex. There is no edge between this and this. So we can color this vertex as 2. Again, here you can 3 and 2 and so on. So here the chromatic number is 3. So actually you need not find out. So already we have defined for Wn. Whenever n is odd, the chromatic number is 3. Isn't it? We have generalized the result. So whenever you look at W9, the chromatic number of W9 is chromatic number is 3. And next is path graph. So here, you know what's a path graph? It is denoted by Pn. So first graph is P1. So only one vertex. So we need only one color. And next one is P2. There are 2 vertices, but 2 vertices are adjacent. So we can't give same color. So 2 different colors. So chromatic number of P2 is 2. The next graph is P3. So here for the middle vertex, we are giving color 2. The other 2 vertices, they are not adjacent. So we can give the same color. So we are finding P3 is, the chromatic number of P3 is 2. So we can generalize now. Chromatic number of P1 is 1. And chromatic number from n is greater than or equal to 2. So chromatic number of Pn is 2. When n is odd or when is even, the chromatic number is 2. The next one is tree graph. What is a tree graph? Tree graph means it's a simple graph. First of all, it's a simple graph. What do you mean by simple graph? No loops, no multiple edges. You know what are multiple edges? Between 2 vertices, if you find more than one edge, we call it as multiple edges. So tree is a simple graph G such that there is a simple non-directed path between each pair of vertices of G. And T is connected graph without cycle. What do you mean by there is a path between every pair of vertices? So every pair, there is a some mistake. There is a unique path there. That unique is missing. There is a unique path between every pair of vertices. If you if there is a unique path, then you will not find a cycle. Because if a cycle is there, then there will be two paths from one vertex to the other vertex. If there is a unique path, then you will not find a cycle. If there is a path between every pair of vertices, that means all the vertices are connected. So you can say the definition, a tree is a simple graph such that there is a unique, simple directed path. It's a directed graph, directed path, otherwise it's a path between each pair of vertices. In other words, we can say T is a connected graph without a cycle. The next is rooted tree. So rooted tree is a tree in which there is a designated vertex called root. So here in this graph, this is called root, and these three, it's a tree, these three vertices are called leaves. And here, what is the degree of this vertex is 1. So here in a tree graph, if the degree of the vertex is 1, that vertex we call it as leaf, and this vertex we call it as root. And here, here 1 is root, and 2, 3, we call this 2, 3, these numbers we call it as children of this root 1. And here this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they are all vertices in level 2. The vertex at this is called 0 level, this is level 1, level 2, level 3. And these are all called, see, the degree of vertex 14 is 1 because only one edge incident on this vertex. So here degree of this vertex is 1, degree of this vertex is 1. So 6, 7, their degree of vertex is 1. They are called leaves. And here, if the vertex are not leaves, the other vertices we call it as internal vertices. They are all called internal vertices, and this is called root. And then here, this is a directed graph, tree. So A is the root, and B, C, they are all at level 1. So in the previous graph, now we can also find out height of the tree. How to find out height of the tree? The length of the path from root to the leaf. Length of the longest path from root to the leaf. How do you calculate length of the path? Number of edges present in the path. See which is the longest path from 1 to 14. Or you can take 1 to 16 or 1 to 15 is the longest path. So what is the length of the longest path here? The length of the longest path is number of edges incident on that path. So how many edges are incident? 1, 2, 3. So height of the tree is 3. If the height of the tree is 3, then there will be 0 level, level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay. The next is, this is again directed tree. If directions are there, then we call it as directed tree. The next, the last topic is spanning tree. Now already I told you what is a subgraph. So for tree, we have here spanning tree. In spanning tree, the definition says, let G be a simple graph. A spanning tree G is a subgraph of G. That is a tree containing every vertex of G. So here, this is a graph. Now we have to find out, find the spanning tree of this graph. So what is the definition says? First of all, it should be a subgraph. You know what are the conditions for subgraph? Subgraph is all the vertices should be a subset of G and edges should be a subset of edges of G. So that condition is satisfied. So to be a spanning tree, first it should satisfy, it should be a subgraph. So here H1 is a subgraph. H1 is a subgraph of G. And what is the condition for a spanning tree? Spanning tree, it should contain all the vertices. It should contain all the vertices of the given graph G. But in a subgraph, it need not contain all the vertices of the graph G. It contains a subset of vertices of G. But in a spanning tree, it should contain all the vertices of G. Therefore, that condition is satisfied. And then, because it is a tree, H1 is a tree, it should not contain loop. And here, if there are 4 vertices, the number of edges should be, if there are n in a tree, if there are n vertices, n minus 1 edges. Because here 4 vertices, there should be 3 edges. So all the conditions should satisfy, then only this becomes a spanning tree. So what is a spanning tree? It's a simple graph. A spanning tree, first it should be a subgraph, and then it should be a tree. So here tree, it should contain all the vertices of the graph, and it should not contain cycles, and all the vertices should be connected. Okay, so H1 is a spanning tree of the given graph G. Now similarly, H2 is also a spanning tree because H2 contains all the vertices of G, and all the vertices of H2 are connected and contains no cycles, and there are 4 vertices and we have 3 edges. Now look at H3. H3 is not a spanning tree. Why H3 is not a spanning tree? So here, here H3, all the one vertex is missing, and also it contains cycle. Therefore, H3 is not a spanning tree of the given graph. So this method of finding spanning tree is nothing but trial and error method. But we have 2 more algorithms, breadth first search and depth first search for finding spanning tree. Now I am not explaining now breadth first search tree and depth first search tree. So I've just explained using only trial and error method. See, these trial and error method, breadth first search and depth first search, these methods are used to get a spanning tree for non-weighted graph. Non-weighted graph means weight of the edges will not be there on the edges. Now what is this weighted graph? Weighted graph is nothing but each edge is labeled with a positive number. For such a weighted graph, we can find minimal and maximal spanning tree. So to find minimal and maximal spanning tree for weighted graph, we have different algorithms, and they are Prim's algorithm, Kruskal's algorithm. Now let us discuss this Kruskal's algorithm to find minimal and maximal spanning tree. What is Kruskal's algorithm? So step 1, select any edge of minimal value. Select any edge of minimal value. Okay, so and then select any remaining edge of T having minimal value that does not form a circuit. And then step 3, then you have to continue the process until n minus 1 edges, where n is the number of edges. So what does it mean? For finding minimal spanning tree, we should write the weight of the edges. So we'll write, suppose if you want to find out minimal spanning tree, we write the weight of the edges in increasing order. Okay. So first plot all the vertices of the given graph. Then consider the edges which are having minimum weight. As you add the edges, see that it does not form cycle and all the vertices are connected. You have to check whether all the vertices are connected. After completing, we observe that if there are n vertices, we'll find only n minus 1 edges in the spanning tree. Then add all the weights of the edges. So this is a procedure of Kruskal's algorithm. So we'll see an example. So here we should find minimal and maximal spanning tree using Kruskal's algorithm. So here you see how many vertices are there here. There are 16 vertices. So now we will, there are many cycles are there. Cycles means it's a closed path. See, you have a square. The square is nothing but a cycle C4. So there are many cycles. So now if there are 16 vertices, we have to find a tree with 15 edges, and there all the vertices should be connected and there should not be any cycle. But when you find a minimal spanning tree, you have to choose only edges which are having minimum weight. So here we find 16 vertices. So for minimal spanning tree, we write the weights of the edges in the increasing order. If you write it in increasing order, first we choose edge which is having minimum weight. First, let us plot the vertices and slowly start adding the edges of minimal weight. Okay, as you add the edges, so first you have to write in increasing order, and then you plot the vertices. So now you start adding the edges which is having minimum weight. Okay, if any edge forms a cycle, then don't consider that edge. Try to connect all the vertices. Since there are 16 vertices, when you get 15 edges, stop the process. After doing this, now you have to add weights of all the edges. The total sum of the weights gives you weight of the minimal spanning tree. Okay, so first we have to plot the vertices, and then we have to add the edges which is having minimum weight. As you add the edges, if any edge forms a cycle, then you should not consider that edge. And you have to check whether all the vertices are connected. And since there are 16 vertices, you have to have only 15 edges, because for a tree, the condition is if there are n vertices, only n-1 edges. And then after completing the process, you add all the weights of the edges. That gives you weight of the minimal spanning tree. Now, a similar way, you have to find the maximal spanning tree. For maximal spanning tree, you have to write the weight of the edges in decreasing order. When you write decreasing order, automatically you will choose the edge which is having maximum weight. And then plot the vertices, and then start adding the edges which is having maximum weight. Again, similarly, when you add edges, if any edge forms a cycle, then don't consider that edge. And try to connect all the vertices. And again, since there are 16 vertices, you have to stop with 15 edges. Then add the weights of all the edges. That gives you weight of the maximal spanning tree. So with this, I'll stop.